We've got breaking news out of college football where Florida is hiring Tulane's Jon Sumrall as their next head coach. That is the latest from our Richard Johnson. He spent the past 2 seasons in New Orleans, tallying a 19-7 record with back-to-back appearances in the American Conference Championship game. And prior to that, he went 23-4 in 2 seasons at Troy University. Sumrall will replace Billy Napier in Gainesville, who was fired with a 22-23 record in 3.5 seasons with the Gators. Florida is still seeking its first double-digit win season since 2019. Brandon Marcello and Richard Johnson here to react to this news. And RJ, I'll start with you. How did Florida end up landing Jon Sumrall?
Well, Emily, in the recent couple weeks, as it became apparent that Lane Kiffin was not going to be Florida's next coach, and as it became apparent that Florida was going to lose that sweepstakes, they had to go through a number of different pivot plans. One of them included, obviously, Jon Sumrall. They kept in touch with Jon Sumrall, but Sumrall was himself weighing the Auburn job that is going to go to USF's Alex Golesh. And he was also weighing what was going to happen with the team that Lane Kiffin didn't pick. Towards the end of last week, right after Thanksgiving, it became apparent that Jon Sumrall was not going to be the Auburn head coach and that Auburn was going in a different direction. And Florida heated up its pursuit of Jon Sumrall as well. Yes, I know it's a little interesting that Florida has gone back to the G5 well and back to the Louisiana G5 well. But at the end of the day, given the options at hand for Florida, given that Eli Drinkwitz got an extension, given that Clark Lee got an extension, and it's unclear what will happen with Brent Key, although it looks like he might get an extension given his comments a couple weeks ago about bleeding blue and gold, this is the option left on the table. But that doesn't mean it's a bad option. In today's college football day and age, in the RevShare NIL era, I think what's going to win in the future is going to be a little bit harder to pinpoint. And at the end of the day, Florida's gone a bunch of different options in the post-Urban Meyer era to try to find success, and none of them have worked with any staying power.
Yeah, the last 4 coaching hires for Florida did not get a 5th season. Brandon, you were telling me that Sumrall was really a key piece in this coaching carousel, maybe even more so than Lane Kiffin. What sense do you get as far as how sought after Sumrall was in this coaching cycle?
Yeah, he had long been Auburn's top target. They were in deep discussions for the better part of the last 2 weeks. And I was told that on Thursday, those discussions, for whatever reasons, fell apart. And a little bit after that, of course, it started becoming clear, even through our Mad Senates, that LSU was trending ahead of Florida for Lane Kiffin's services, and that Florida was starting to move on and look elsewhere. So those communication breakdowns with Auburn coincided with all that, and now Jon Sumrall popping up at Florida was his next move. And then as a result of that, you see Arkansas hiring Ryan Silverfield because Auburn got Alex Golesh. Alex Golesh was Arkansas's top target earlier in the week. So it's amazing just how fast things can change just in a matter of really 2 to 3 days in this crazy coaching carousel.
Yeah, and RJ, if we go back to what this means for Florida, something that you mentioned is that there was talk that they may be apprehensive to go back to the group of 5 for its next head coach. But what sense are you getting that this was even considered at all during the hiring process, and or just, maybe a fan thing that they were worried about?
Well, I think if you're any leader of any athletic if you're any leader of any athletic department, I should say, and I do understand that this is easier said than done, you just have to put the blinders on and make the best decision with the current climate of your job and the current climate of the coaching carousel for your program. You can cherry pick and say out of context that they should have gotten this coach or they should have gotten that coach. But at the end of the day, as the dominoes fall, you have to deal with the hand that you're given as an athletic department and as an athletic director. I'm sure there are other coaches that fans want, namely Lane Kiffin, of course, but if Lane Kiffin wasn't going to come, there's only so much you can do within reason if you're Florida to try to entice him to come, particularly when LSU came up as an option after they got rid of Brian Kelly. So yeah, I'm sure that there are Florida fans that are going to be upset about this because he's not the sexy candidate that they may have wanted. But at the end of the day, Florida's gone the Nick Saban assistant route. Florida's gone the high-level G5 head coaching route. Florida's gone all these different routes in the post-Urban Meyer era to try to find success, and it hasn't worked. So you just can't pinpoint a specific candidate and say that guy is going to have success 100%. And in this new day and age, it's about roster retention. It's about how you manage your rev share and your salary cap. There's just a lot of different things that go into what makes success in today's college football day and age.
And Sumrall has won a lot of football games. We showed his record. He's won wherever he's gone. He also has SEC experience, a former linebacker at Kentucky. He coached under Mark Stoops there. So, Marcello, what do you think overall of this fit at Florida?
Oh, he's a fiery guy. He's in-your-face guy. I think also the fan base at Florida is probably going to really like that when they first hear him speak, and just his attitude toward football and how obsessed he is with it. And as you said, he's got a lot of experience. Not just that, he's got experience in the Southeast. As you mentioned, the Kentucky ties. He also coached in the state of Alabama previously at Troy, leading them to the Sun Belt Championships, and then being in Louisiana at Tulane and New Orleans. So he's got a very good idea of the landscape there around that I-10 corridor that's just bristling with talent. So I can't wait to see, one, how the fans react when they first hear him speak there in Florida, but also I want to see how he does really on the recruiting trail and the transfer portal here in these first 2 months on the job. I think he's really going to just absolutely kill it there. I think John Sumrall, no matter where he was going to land this year, one of these Power 5 gigs in the SEC, he was going to do remarkable things immediately. I think you're going to see some really big pulls for them out of the transfer portal here starting up in January, and you're going to see the talk surrounding Florida about them rebuilding things into a situation to where they can win immediately and right now going into next season. And I think right now Florida fans are probably sitting there going, oh, this isn't the guy we wanted. But when they hear him speak and talk and the intensity in his eyes, as you guys have seen probably on the B-roll, he's got intense eyes. I think those Florida fans are going to fall in love with them.
Something kind of cool, too. He was his high school class president 3 times. So you talk about just how drawn to, right? I mean, people are clearly drawn to him. They want to follow him. It tells you a lot about his leadership. But RJ, if we go to what this means for Florida and expectations, you know better than anybody else that those expectations are sky high to win immediately. So how much pressure will Sumrall face to get Florida back to prominence and back to those national titles?
First of all, Emily, I was also student body president. Shout out Buchholz High School.
That doesn't surprise me either.
From one student body president to another, I respect that. Look, I think the floor right now for college football programs at the Power 4 level is a lot lower than people realize. This Florida team is 4-8. And how many times could you say that a Florida program outside of that Muschamp year would go 4-8? The days of rolling the ball out there and scheduling yourself to 6 or 7 wins are gone in the SEC, especially if the SEC keeps going through with the 9 conference game schedule. It is only going to get harder to win double-digit games at the University of Florida or any SEC school, especially in our day and age of parity. Again, Vanderbilt just won 10 games as well. So I think teams are going to wax and wane much quicker as far as being up in the upper echelon of the conference. At the end of the day, somebody's got to finish 12th in the SEC. Somebody's got to finish 9th. So again, the days of sort of the easy 6-7 wins, those are over right now. So you're going to see some pretty wild swings. That's also aided by the fact that obviously you can flip a roster really quickly in college football. So you're going to see teams that have 4 or 5 wins automatically the next year end up with 9 or 10 just because they flipped the roster. And you're going to say, oh, well, it came out of nowhere. Well, sort of, but you are quickly able to build and flip rosters in this day and age. So that also will contribute to the fact that floors and ceilings right now are just going to be completely and totally out of whack in college football compared to what people are used to.
Yeah, Curt Cignetti has ruined this for everybody in terms of immediate expectations and that change. Marcello, something that you mentioned is the transfer portal. So what does this now mean for Florida quarterback DJ Lagway?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they treat this with DJ. I mean, obviously the roof seems to be really high on this guy, and we've seen him struggle this season. Of course, he's also had a lot of injury troubles over the last 2 years and even this past off season. So I'm interested to see how John Sumrall treats this and how he handles him going forward, and whether they just go, we'd like for you to stick around, but we're also going to go look for another quarterback as well. And we're going to have an open quarterback, competition here in the spring and going into the summer months. I think that'll be one of the top questions that you hear for John Sumrall, even at his introductory press conference from the local beat reporters there. Fascinating to watch.
Yeah, Brandon, I agree about potentially bringing in a quarterback for competition for DJ Lagway. This has been something of a lost season, I think, for DJ Lagway, and that follows a lost offseason for DJ Lagway. So many injuries compounding upon themselves created an offseason where he really just wasn't able to develop. He really just wasn't able to throw much at all. And then you get into this season, obviously rocky. He had his own injuries. He also had injuries to his wide receiver core, his pass catchers, and it just created this domino effect. And then obviously Billy Napier out of a job. So you just had so many things overlapping that created a season that leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth for DJ Lagway and his lack of progression. But yeah, as far as what will happen to DJ Lagway in the future, I'm sure Lagway himself may have some options. This quarterback carousel, we talk about the coaching carousel. I think the quarterback carousel is going to spin pretty wildly as well. So yeah, that's probably job number one for John Sumrall, is figure out what do we have at the quarterback situation. Do we want to keep DJ Lagway, and are we going to keep DJ Lagway? Because yes, he will certainly have suitors if he were to hit the open market.
Yeah, this is just the beginning to a wild offseason. Brandon Marcello and Richard Johnson, thank you so much for breaking it down. It's not my call, but I'm going to say sit tight. I'm sure we're going to be talking to you all day long as the hires are coming fast and furious. The coaching carousel starting to fill up that row over there on the right. 3 hires today: Arkansas, Ryan Silverfield, Auburn, Alex Golesh, and Florida hiring John Sumrall to be its next head coach. We'll continue to break down all the news as it comes right here on HQ.